Hello, anybody. Here's Morgan. Good evening, bonsoir, mes petites. This is your Uncle Henri. Tonight, I tell you the story of the little Riding Hood Rouge. Now, once upon a time, there was this little girl who lived with her mother, a charming, beautiful woman, ravissante, gorgeous. Now, the little girl was only 18, but what a figure, what graceful, what... Alors, one day, the beautiful mother told the daughter, Riding Hood Rouge, that she have to go visit with the grandmama, a beautiful, charming woman, elegant, such chic. She was 95, but a typical Parisienne, she looked only 85. Exquise, ravissante. Alors, the little Riding Hood Rouge started out along the Champs-Élysées. On the way at the rond-point, she met a wolf. He was driving a Renault, a 4 chevaux, and he suggests to her that they stop by at his apartment for an aperitif, a digestif, anything. She says, no. He says, well, I have wonderful pictures, Rouault, Dufy, Grandma, Moses, anything. She says, no. She explained she have to bring to the grand-mère the basket of goodies. In the basket, by the way, is a bottle of champagne, a bottle of Bordeaux, 2 croissants, and a package of Brilot. So the wolf drive away. Finally, the little girl arrived to the house of the grand-mère. It's a small apartment, 3 rooms and kitchen, but plenty of closet space, cross ventilation in the bedroom, and the living room have 4 windows, one on every side, is double cross ventilation. Alors, in the boudoir, there is in the bed the wolf. Ah, to him says the little girl, how big are to you the eyes? Ah oui, to her the wolf respond, everybody compliment me on the eyes. And she says, but your teeth, they are indeed of enormous. Yes, he replied to her, all the better that you should admire them to me. At this moment, in comes the grandmama. Listen, wolf, she says, this girl is only bébé. She only have 18 years of the age. What you want, wolf, is a woman of experience. The wolf think this over, and he decide this is correct. So, the way the story end, grand-mère, she go with the wolf, Riding Hood, she go home alone. She was gorgeous. Tomorrow, Goldilocks and the 3 traveling salesmen. Bonsoir, mes petites. I had 12 bottles of whiskey in my cellar, and my wife told me to empty the contents of each and every bottle down the sink, or else. So I said I would, and proceeded with the unpleasant task. I withdrew the cork from the first bottle and poured the contents down the sink, with the exception of 1 glass, which I drank. I extracted the cork from the second bottle and did likewise, with the exception of 1 glass, which I drank. I then withdrew the cork from the third bottle and emptied the good old booze down the sink, except 1 glass, which I drank. I pulled the cork from the 4th sink and poured the bottle down the glass, which I drank. I pulled the bottle from the cork of the next and drank 1 sink out of it and poured the rest down the glass. I pulled the sink out of the next glass and poured the cork down the bottle. And I pulled the next cork out of my throat and poured the sink down the bottle and drank the glass. Then I corked the sink with the glass and bottled the drink and drank the pour.
Well, I had everything emptied. I steadied the house with one hand, counted the bottles and corks and glasses with the other, which were 29. To be sure, I counted them again when they came by, and I had 74. And as the house came by, I counted them again, and finally I had all the houses and bottles and corks and glasses counted, except one house and one bottle, which I drank.
Good afternoon. This is Googie Morgan about to bring you the broadcast of today's encounter between the Blue Stockings of Punting on Thames and the White Jerseys of Jersey. Here in London at Tinky Boo Stadium, there's the usual heavy fog and the slight drizzle which make it so wonderful to be in England now that April's here. At first bat for the Blues shall be Alfred Twickenham Bart. You'll note that he still uses the designation Bart, though as a suspended barrister, he's actually Des Bart. Now here's the first service of the pitchman. It has been adjudged a strike. The second pitch, he swings. Funny, that blow reminds me of what happens to an elephant when slammed by what is in effect a tiny bullet. Some years ago in Tanganyika, I had the good fortune to be on expedition with Sir Hubert Foss Whitelip, BPOE, FDR, HST. Seems we'd been pig sticking, and becoming somewhat bored with pig sticking, had decided to switch to cools. One afternoon on safari, our native guide, Bandala, an idiot, suddenly cried, "Puna Tonga Massa, Puna Tonga Massa." He'd strained his coccyx. The following summer, he fell off a ship on his way to Mombasa. Later, he was accidentally clubbed to death in a cricket match. The final score, I recall, was 72 runs, none out, 3 punts and a wicket. Ah, that was a good one. You know, I'm reminded of a gentleman in Pune. Oh, both of them, eh? Excellent. Gentleman in Pune, a Major Chutney, was out one afternoon after tiger. By strange coincidence, there was a tiger out after him. Major Chutney was horribly mangled. Turned a very peculiar shade of grey. Of course, we've all heard of Major Chutney's grey. Particularly interesting play, that. Faversham at short threw to Eversham at second, who, whirling smartly, threw to Frothingham at first. They did it most carefully. Faversham to Eversham to Frothingham, leaving nothing to chance. Well, that was the final play of the afternoon, the better team having won, of course. We shall take leave of you here at Tinky Boo Stadium and return you to our main studios. There, after a while, you are to hear a talk given by Maud Lady Fallow, entitled Swamp Fires I Have Known. This is London Calling in the overseas service of the BBC.
Momentarily, the concert will begin right away. Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky was born in Old Russia, as it was called at that time. He lived for a while in St. Petersburg or Petrograd or Leningrad, depending on when you lived there. I was born in Binsnebia, a small town. It's near Voroshibdansk. I just wanted to place that for you. My grandmother and grandfather still live there. Actually, my grandfather lives in the barn. They are separated. Voroshibdansk is about 40 miles from Omsk, but uphill.
Horses don't like it. No. No. Yes, some horses like it, but not in winter. Most horses, you don't have to go that way. You could go the other way through Boitsk, but it takes you hours. Traffic in greater metropolitan downtown Boitsk is terrible. Pigs, goats, peasants. You wouldn't like it. No. No. Yes, you might like it, but... When Rimsky first met Korsakov, he was 27 years of old. Some people say he was 29. He wasn't. He was 27. Or 8. Why argue? Life's too short. You may not even be here tomorrow, especially in Russia. And if you are living in Russia, you may not even be there tomorrow, or later this afternoon. The first violinist is a very interesting man. He's a relative by divorce. Years ago, I was married to his first wife, so he's my ex-brother-in-law by divorce. He plays terrible, but he's now the brother-in-law of the conductor, so what would you expect? When Korsakov met Rimsky, he was part owner of the Bolshoi Theater. In those days, you could at least part own something. Of course, hardly anybody did. Today, nobody owns everything. How could you make a living from that? Now, you will notice in first movement, first 3 bars is silent. He stole that. Next 4 bars is flutes. You wouldn't like it. Now he's coming on stage conductor. You wouldn't like him. Here is coming overture. I go home. If you've been reading the ads lately, you'll notice that everything is milder. All soaps are milder than one another. One soap is so mild, you can use it to wash other soaps. They have another soap, still milder. When it attacks dirt, if the dirt fights back, it runs away. It's called Sissy. This Sissy is so mild that when it gets in your eyes, it cries. And according to the ads, everything is richer. Flavor is richer, aroma, everything but the customer. And what's this claim about things being untouched by human hands? What's wrong with human hands? Mention a better kind of hands. They were good enough for my father, and they're good enough for me. Take the new Buzzkirk cars. The ad says they're now rolling off the assembly line. If they could keep them on the assembly line, they'd have a better car. And this year it has 17% more visibility. Last year it had 32% more visibility. Each year for 30 years, it's had an average of 28% more visibility. So this year's Buzzkirk is made entirely of glass. They improved the springs, but there was nothing wrong with them before. The reason cars bump along is that we don't know how to make streets flat. Tell me, why do they keep saying this cereal is shot out of a cannon? Who cares? So are cannonballs, but they don't taste good with cream and sugar. In fact, so is the man in the circus shot out of a cannon, but he just lands in a net. And what's so good about a cereal that makes a loud cracking noise? So would the man in the circus if you took away the net. How about things that are king size? One thing I have to know, which king do you mean? King Peter of Romania, he's 4'7". King Gustav of Sweden, he's 6'4". They'll have to make all the products the same size or all the kings the same size. Advertising ought to be simple. A fellow ought to say, my product's pretty good. At least, my wife Mabel likes it. But then his competitor would say, my wife Ethel likes my product better. Then the first one would probably say, 4 out of 5 doctors know more than Ethel. And before you know it, Mabel would be shot out of a cannon. Actually, I adore advertising. It's been very good for this recording. This is a special educational feature for children who watch cowboy movies on television. Call the children, please. I'll wait. Up along, baby, here's your Cassidy. Are all the kids here? All righty. Kids, when you watch your favorite cowboy actor on TV, you must always remember what they were in the old days in real life, as it is called. The average cowboy was a completely illiterate oaf. He didn't know how to read or write, and his entire vocabulary consisted of about 95 words, of which 32 were Spanish as spoken by ignorant Mexicans. His job was to sit on a horse all day and stare at cows. He ate 3 meals a day. Breakfast was some mud boiled in a rusty tomato can over a fire. When a horseshoe would float in the mud, it was called coffee, and he drank it. Lunch was coffee and some hard, ugly little biscuits made of sourdough. It was called sourdough because it was sour. Dinner was coffee and a dead rabbit. At fiesta time, he ate 2 chunks of the greasier parts of a pig and reveled. At night, this lout slept in a horse blanket on the ground. The blanket was called a horse blanket because it was used for the horse, too, and as a result, it smelled like both of them. Cowboys didn't like discouraging words. They had a song about how they loved the range and another song about how they didn't want to be buried on the lone prairie. That is, the place was all right to live in, but a terrible place to die. So if he had any personality at all, it was split. There were no fences out on the prairie, so the cattle had to be marked. But cowboys couldn't write, as we already know, so they'd make up a childish design and burn it on the animals. The device used was called a brandon iron. Once a year was roundup time. The cowboy's job was to herd the cattle together and get them all moving in one direction. To do the same thing with sheep, sheepdogs are used because they're somewhat smarter and 4 times faster than a cowboy. In defense of the cowboy, however, it should be said that no sheepdog has ever been known to play the guitar. Cowboys didn't bathe much, just up to their calves. The way this happened was they'd come to a stream and the rider would be too lazy to get off the horse. When the horse swam, the cowboy got his ankles bathed. That was considered plenty. You know from the movies, of course, that they wear black hats and black shirts. These originally were white. A cowboy was paid around $20 a month. On payday, he would take the money to the nearest saloon and get falling down drunk. His horse never had any real fun like that. Now, a cowboy had no future except to become the oldest cowboy around, so occasionally he'd get ambitious and steal cattle from his boss. After he'd saved a little money from this, he'd buy a gun. Then he could hold up stagecoaches. In time, after a few holdups and some murders, he'd be a big man who had the love and admiration of all. So, kids, when you watch Westerns on TV, always remember that the hero of the story is based on that great all-time lummox, the cowboy. Oh, that was a splendid find they soaked John D. Rockefeller with, said Mr. Dooley. What did they give him? Asked Mr. Hennessy. $29 million, said Mr. Dooley. Oh, great, said Mr. Hennessy. That's a grand find. That's a gorgeous find. I can't hardly believe it. It's true, though, said Mr. Dooley. $29 million, divil a cent less. The judge said to him, "You're an old offender, and I'll have to make an example of you. $29 million or 58 million days. Call the next case." Did he pay the fine? He did not. He looks after his own money and the money of other people, too. He takes it and puts it where it won't hurt them, and they won't spoil it. He's a kind of a society for the prevention of cruelty to money. If he finds a man misusing his money, he takes it away from him and adopts it. Every Saturday night, he lets the man see it for a few hours. So, as a matter of principle, he appealed the case. An appeal, Hennessy, is where you ask one court to show its contempt for another court. I have great respect for the judiciary, as fine a lot of cross and indignant men as you'll find anywhere. Many's the time I've bowed to a decree of a court, only to see it go up gaily to the Supreme Court, knock at the door, and be kicked downstairs by an angry old gentleman in a black silk petticoat. Hogan has it figured out that if John D. refuses to go back on his Puritan principles and separate himself from his money, he'll be 158,000 years in cold storage. Well, sir, glory be, but times has changed when they land me great and good friend with a fine that's about equal to 3 million drunk and disorderly cases. 'Twould have been cheaper if he took to drink early in life. You know, time was, I dreamed of having money, and lots of it. 'Tis true I begun me dreams at the wrong end and spent the money before I got it. I was always clear about the way to spend it, but uncertain about the way to get it. Now, if the good Lord had intended me to be a rich man, he'd have turned me dreams around and made me clear about making the money, but very awkward and shy about getting rid of it. I see the way my friend John D. feels. He thinks he's doing a great service to the world, collecting all the money in sight. It might remain in incompetent hands if he didn't get it. 'Twould be a shame to leave it where it'd be mistreated. But as a father of about $30, I want to bring them up myself in me own foolish way. I may not do what's right by them. I may be too indulgent with them. Their home life may not be happy. Perhaps it's clear that if they went to the Rockefeller Institution for the care of money, they'd be in better surroundings. Do you think he'll ever serve out his fine? Asked Mr. Hennessy. I don't know, said Mr. Dooley. But if he does, when he comes out at the end of 158,000 years, he'll find a great many changes in men's hats and the means of transportation, but not much in anything else. He may find flying machines, but he'll see a good many people still walking to their work. Ladies and gentlemen, my first book on children, How to Teach Your Child to Talk, was a success. It created the demand for my second book, How to Teach Your Child to Shut Up. The famous Herr Professor Krausmeyer of Vienna has written 4 books. Quiet. Krausmeyer has published pamphlets. Quiet. Krausmeyer says that the infantile ego manifests itself in phenomena which result in neurological reactions. Krausmeyer's an idiot. Shut up. Krausmeyer has 4 children of his own, you know. One of them learned to read and write when he was only 27. 2 of them is in the loony bin. The last one he keeps home locked in a closet. That's what Krausmeyer knows. Now, I got here a couple questions from mothers about problems with the children. Let's see, one lady asks, what I suggest for nail biting? Well, for nail biting, I suggest sharp teeth. Of course, if mothers don't like it when children bite their nails, the mother should wear gloves. Quiet. Krausmeyer says, the mind of a child is like a telephone switchboard where all the nervous system is connected up together in it. For example, if the child puts the finger in the fire, the finger telephones up to the switchboard and says, it burns me down here. Then the head telephones to the don't forget department and leaves a message, don't forget, keep that finger out of the fire. Krausmeyer's an imbecile. Shut up. Handling a child is easy. Only thing you gotta know is more than him. So all you gotta do is buy my new book entitled How to Know More Than a Stupid Little Kid. When you finish the book, if the kid still knows more than you do, make him watch the television. It'll stupid him up good. For the last time, you're gonna keep quiet. Who knows more, you or me? See? I know more. The discovery of time. Today we have many kinds of time. Eastern Standard, Daylight Saving, Lunchtime, ragtime. But what of the time before time was discovered? People had no time for work, no time for play. Time hadn't been invented yet, and the Bulliver Watch Company was making peanuts. Time was discovered in the year called Who Knows by two brothers who stayed in their room all day trying to discover things. Some people called them dreamers. Their mother called them bums. Their names were Frank and Dick Merriwell. One day, they were preparing their favorite breakfast of medium-boiled eggs. Frank put the eggs in the hot water, and Dick put his arm in up to the elbow. When his arm was red, they knew the eggs were soft-boiled. Then it went to blue, finally purple, and when Dick screamed, the eggs were done. Well, Dick used to go to the doctor every day, and every day the doctor would tell him the same thing: stop eating eggs. Frank said not to worry, that someday he would discover a new way to figure out when an egg was done. Dick, shocked, asked him not to say such wild things or they'd burn him as a witch. Frank said, all right, call me crazy, but remember, they laughed at Robert Fulton. Sure, said Dick. Did you see that suit he was wearing? Never mind, said Frank. Someday we'll discover how long it takes from now till later. And then he said to Dick, well, I'll see you after a while. When? Said Dick. What do you mean, when? Said Frank. All right, said Dick. Who? And the daring brothers forged ahead. First, they tried to measure time by burning candles. Frank started at one end, Dick at the other, and they invented the process of burning the candle at both ends. One day, Frank and Dick accidentally sat on their candles. This was known as burning their ends at both candles. And they forged ahead. They cut notches in a candle. When the flame reached the first notch, it was lunchtime. When it reached the second notch, dinner time, and at the third notch, it was night and bedtime. They called this process burn-us notches. Next, they tried a battery. Frank ran wires from the battery to Dick in order to find out how long it would take him to walk from the battery to Dick. Well, Dick took hold of the wires, and a terrible thing happened. His bow tie lit up. Poor fellas, they had discovered electricity. Failed again. Then Frank discovered that if he put a stick in the ground out in the sun, that in the morning the shadow was long, then shorter, and when the sun was right overhead, no shadow. Dick said, incredible. And what is your other conclusion? Said Frank. Well, said Dick, I must have that stick. Frank said, it isn't the stick, and then he put 24 of them into the ground. Egad, said Dick, they all work. Those sticks are mine. No, said Frank, they're mine. Finally, after a long argument, Dick said, I know what? We shall call them hours. And so the 24 hours were discovered. It was child's play to break the sticks into minutes and seconds, and since they had the minds of children, they did it. Time was discovered, and later, Dr. Einstein added the concept of relativity. But to this day, nobody knows how he makes a living out of it. Hey, Bud, come here. Yeah, you. Listen, I picked you out of the crowd because I noticed you coughing and sneezing. You want to get rid of that cold, don't you? Right? Step right over here against this neutral background. I don't want everybody noticing what we're doing. Listen, take the card I'm giving you here. Go to the address on the card. It's a barber shop. Now, in the window, you'll see a guy fixing watches. Give the card to this guy. See, come here. He's not really a watch fixer. He's a doctor. The reason he's got this watchmaker set up, see, he don't want to advertise he's an MD. It ain't, ethical. Now, you hand him this card, he'll give you a new discovery of his, a medicine. It contains the mystery ingredient, Nevofolderol 7. It's a real mystery ingredient. Even the doc don't know what it is. So it cures a cold. What does he have to know, right? So listen, you go home, you take a hot bath, then you stand around by an open window till you dry off. Next day, go to work early and work hard all day, no lunch. You gotta get yourself good and tired, see? Then you go home, you make a big pot of coffee, and you drink it all night. You don't want to get no sleep, see? Then you take another hot bath, dry off by the open window like before. You do this for 7 days, taking the medicine all the time, you'll be all right in a jiffy. How does it cure a cold? Well, Bud, no doc actually cures a cold. What happens is you get pneumonia. That they can cure. You what? You're a plainclothes cop? Well, what difference does it make? You want to lose the cold, don't you? All right, stop hollering. I'm coming. This record is made in the original, non-tricky, no dials to adjust, lo-fi.